Thanks for listening to the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast, where each week we talk about a free piece or two of technology that you can use in your classroom. I'm your host, Shannon Martin. I'm a middle school teacher, technology coach, and personalized learning coordinator for my district.
And I'm her producer/husband, Fuzz Martin.
Yay!
Yay!
Today, we are going to talk about timelines.
Timelines. Things work better when there's timelines.
Wow, that was like
horrible.
Extreme cheese.
You're welcome, people who are driving into work this morning or driving home from work in the afternoon. What are we doing?
We're sitting at your desk.
We are
trying these things out after school.
This show, while I love this show greatly, it's starting to impede on my Game of Thrones time. I motion that we start recording this show on some other night that we don't have.
And it will still drop on Monday morning, so it doesn't matter to anybody listening. But Sunday nights.
We usually record the show
on Sunday nights.
When our youngest goes to bed.
Yeah.
On Sunday nights. And it was Easter weekend, so there was some traveling involved and change of schedule and routine. And
Game of Thrones done right now.
Now it's pushing into Game of Thrones. So let's move on to the show.
So we're going to talk about timelines. And actually, we can use a Game of Thrones reference a little bit later on with timelines.
And not really just timelines, but project management. And
organization a little bit and kind of laying things out.
Making sure all of your ducks are neatly in a row.
Fun. Quack.
Quack. All right.
Episode 18. Today we're going to talk about some timelining. I have several websites to talk about. We're going to talk about VisMe. We're going to talk about time graphics. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about
Team Gantt,
which is actually similar, as we were discussing this a little bit before. It's a time graphics. And I mean, we've thrown a little Google drawing and some Draw.io stuff that you guys can use for timelines. I feel like I use timelines a lot in my classroom, especially like in my history class. But I find as I'm talking to other teachers, like our math teachers, the kids are doing a mathematician and they're researching like the events of their life, and even like getting to know you stuff. I know when we're doing personalized learning, we like to get to know students and have their personalized learning plans, their PLP put together and things like that. So, creating timelines, not just in class for historical context, but for kind of laying things out, I think is important in keeping things organized. The first one we're going to talk about is VisMe, which VisMe,
maybe.
I'm sure there's 100 ways to say
visual.
A lot, like visual is kind of what it goes by, visualness. I actually use VisMe for like infographics and presentations, and they have like cool things that way. But if you sneak in kind of into Google and you type VisMe and then you type in timeline, you get a straight shot to their timeline stuff without having to sort through all the infographics, I guess, which is really kind of cool. It's like their free timeline maker, and you can just create a timeline infographic. So it's visme.co/timeline-maker/. And so when you go in, it's cool. It's like, here's all your templates for timelines specifically. If you already have an account, it'll just pull up your regular account and stuff. Sign in with Google, and then it's cool. It looks, they're very similar to infographics, but they're laid out specifically for timelines, like the history of blank. And then here you put in a date, and you can just adjust the date and the time and the information. And if you go on the left-hand side, you'll see like basics, like your header and all that kind of stuff. You can see graphics, and they all have different, choices for lines and shapes, and you can even put animals in there if you want to, and fun little information. And they have got data points where you can put in little graphs and stuff like that. But it's really kind of nice if you want students to put together maybe not a super complicated timeline, but maybe, 10 to 12 events. And it's just laid out really nice. So if you want
it's kind of an infographic-y timeline.
Yeah, it is going to be definitely more like an infographic. But instead of having to start from scratch with an infographic,
right,
it's already set up nicely as a timeline.
Yeah. But this is good for things that you're going to present, or that, or that, maybe it's a timeline that you're putting together and you just want it to look fancy for your schnazzy, for your internal group.
Right.
This would look good, but this is really, I think, good for when you're trying to tell a story with time kind of thing.
And I think for students, this is an easy one for students. It's not overly complicated. If you're creating quick timelines and they need a visual, or they're going to present to class, or if they're going to like create something, in Visme, what you can do is you can click the share button, and then the link will become, you can publish it and the link will become live. So like if you're going to add that into maybe another presentation they're in class, that they're going to put together in class, or if they want to quick share links with one another to share information, it's very user friendly, especially for when it comes to students timelining. It's not overly complicated. There's choices, but there's not overly too much
It's
stuff.
not going to
so
overwhelm
it's kind of
you.
a quick timeline that looks really nice, either as a teacher or as students could use it very easy,
because you really don't want them to have to create a timeline to their timeline.
Right.
No?
Now you're getting complicated. I do think that even younger students would be able to handle this one, like fifth, sixth grade. I think definitely could be able to create a timeline this way. So that would be good too. That in Visme, you can get way more complicated with stuff as you go on, but the timeline maker is very easy to use.
Sure.
It would be great for, I would say, like fifth grade and up could definitely create cool digital timelines that way. Visme, it's kind of cool. And yes, they make infographics and you can create presentations, and they also have the option with all of their stuff where you can brand it, so you can have all your colors and everything coordinates with Visme, which is fun to do if you're teaching students about branding. It's another one of those websites that lets you create all that kind of cool stuff. So
sure,
Visme is my number one. And yes, there's the upgrade, go premium, pay for stuff, but
that's not what this show is about.
If you love it, then you can pay for it. I am going to throw out there that we did talk about Draw.io a couple weeks ago with webbing and organizing that way. And Draw.io, if you need a quick timeline, if you did get a chance to play, I mean, you could bust out a very straightforward timeline in Draw.io probably in 5 minutes or less. A couple boxes, a bunch of arrows, type in your information. So episode, was it like episode 12 maybe? I'm just guessing now. I'm not even good at guessing what episode it was for Draw.io.
It wasn't too long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. And look, EdTech Directory, episode 13. I was close.
Yeah.
I use the EdTech Directory if you can't remember things. I use it all the time. I should find my own stuff. But yeah, Draw.io, if you want a very basic timeline, it's an easy way to have students do that. And we use it frequently just for a quick, like, hey, outline your information, go. You got 5 minutes. And
sure.
It's really easy to do. And again, saves everything to Google. Fantastic. So the other one, time graphics. This is kind of a new discovery of mine.
So if you're looking for it online, it's time.graphics. So instead of when it's not timegraphics.com, it's just time.graphics. And it's amazing. So you go to create, and then you click like create, and then it'll pull up your thing and it'll connect like create like from scratch in Google. And it's amazing. So on the left hand, like once you get in, you get this like giant gray screen with all of these months and years in it, and you can zoom in and zoom out and adjust the years. Like you can go up to 2080. I mean, you can go further than that. You can go out 60, 70 years. Anyway, so you pick your year, you pick wherever space you want to work within. The left-hand side of the screen, you can add JPEGs and PNGs and PDFs and docs and PowerPoints, and you can even connect to your Dropbox, and it connects to your Google Drive. So you're able, like once you design and create this timeline of lots of stuff, it will save directly to your Google Drive. Oh, it's great.
Because, well, students lose things on
Yeah.
occasion. And anything that saves directly to your Google Drive to me is like already a win, whether it's going to sort of work or not. But this one works. And then once you pick all of these cool things you can add, like you can add a doc, like, oh, I'm going to create an event. And in my event, I'm going to add this history of a person I'm doing. So if you're doing like a biography or you're doing it about someone's life, you can add, like students could literally like put their whole project together within this timeline. And then you have all of these other little choices once you create an event. So you can add how-to video tutorials into your timeline. You can add percentages. You can go into and add specific statistics.
You can
go and add country data. You can add, what else do we have in here? Grouping. And there's a little video. And then within the Google, you can then add a Google Sheet, anything from your Google Calendar, anything from your Google Analytics.
Yep.
From like a web page, and you can connect different events to one another. And then there's like a little how-to video tutorial with each thing. So if I clicked on like I want an event and I don't know how to do it, it pops up a YouTube video that literally walks you through how Timeline Editor, like how you do it within their program.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So if you want students working on their own and they're, to personalize their learning and to be working at their own pace, not only can they build their own timeline, but every time they have questions, they don't have to ask you because the how-to video is connected to how to add the event into the timeline.
Right.
It's amazing. And the top part, you can add pictures in. There's a little camera, and you can change the pictures, and you can darken stuff and you can brighten it up, and then you can make it bigger and smaller. On the right hand side, you got pluses and the plus to zoom in and minus to zoom out.
Yeah.
And you just click and add events, and you can build this whole timeline. I had some students playing around with it. I think there's an example I have thrown into our smartnwi.com. So it is a super cool timeline maker, and it will lay everything out very beautifully for your students. And I think for the one of the best things is not the fact that you can upload everything on the planet to this timeline, but that there's a video tutorial for it already. So you don't have to screencast yourself or anything. Like, it's already there to walk the students through the process.
Right.
Which is awesome. I do recommend it for probably a little bit older students just because it could get pretty intricate with all the things that you're going to add into this timeline.
Sure. But
if you want to build on stories and creating story timelines, we talked about, we could outline Game of Thrones, from the books from season 1 through season 8, and we could have like this really cool elaborate timeline.
Well, good.
That
actually,
people might want to visit.
So
and see the
free limits on this one.
Yes.
You get 3 total timelines.
Okay.
30 total events.
Okay.
So that's where it might start to get squeezed, and you can use up to 10 total pieces of media, so video files and such. But that is it's super cool, and like I've been playing around with it because we use Team Gantt and some other software for Gantt charting, which is essentially what Time Graphics is doing. Time Graphics has way more like cool things you can add onto it. It seems a little bit more complicated, but it's also super robust, which is cool. Whereas Team Gantt is very business-like and was probably really good for creating like just project timelines mostly. It's less
well, and you guys use like the paid version of Team Gantt, right?
Yeah, but there's a free. A free version as well. It's just not as fun of a program as Time Graphics.
Well, and you want to explain how you use it for your timeline stuff?
Sure, and we've got some samples on smartnwi.com. But for example, we'll lay out a project like in each of the project kind of chunks. So like, for instance, we have a video up there. So pre-production, music selection, scripting, and then video and animation. Those are like 4 sections.
So it's like project management.
Correct. Yep. Total project management stuff.
So if you're teaching kids, like if you're, some of the upper level kids and you're trying to teach them project management, or that you actually have like a project manager in a group and they're running a quarter long or a semester long project, this would be really great for them to get some actual like business practice and how to do project management.
Yeah,
Using that
or
tool.
you could use it. Let's say you're laying out. Maybe you've got a semester long project for students, and you want to say make something that's a little bit more laid out visually for them for timelines. That you could create that in here, or even if you're trying to back yourself into a date, you can add in holidays and things like that, so you know which days you might have a day off of school or something like that. You can create that full.
So in Team Gantt, you can put like calendar stuff into.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually have a calendar view. They've got a list view, but the main view is the Gantt view. Which, if you're unfamiliar with a Gantt, it's like a bunch of different lines.
It looks almost like a bar graph sideways.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Sort of.
And it's kind of, if you were to lay out a spreadsheet and put the dates across the top and put the projects down below and then highlight, which dates go in which cells of when things are due, that's what this looks like when you go down the sheet. So
the visuals are a little different than like a time graphics definitely lays out like a timeline versus Team Gantt.
Yeah, which is
lays out more like your
project management Gantt stuff. I think you could do this Gantt type of thing. I know you can because I've been playing with it on
time graphics.
But
time graphics you can lay out. It lays out more like a timeline if you're going to set it up for students that way.
Yeah. So, but Team Gantt is definitely, they have a free version of Team Gantt. You can have one project and up to 3 people on that project.
Okay.
So if you're doing small groups or something like that, you can.
Right.
If they need to, like, perhaps a student needed to show you what they plan to do for their project and how do they plan to get it done in time. You could have them do it this way, or if it's a team project, everybody can tell when each person has to do their part of the project. Cool. Just like project management. Hurrah!
Ta-da! You get practice with real life things.
Yeah, so that's Team Gantt, GANTT.com.
Cool. Very cool. And Time Graphics is time.graphics.
And Visme, I suggest you search for it.
But then you guys, Visme timeline.
Yeah, so type in VISME.
Yeah.
And then timeline in Google, and it'll bring you right to where you need to go.
Right.
And you'll feel much better about yourself than searching for it on their website.
Yeah, because their website is not, like, it's meant for presentations and infographics. Yeah. It's not, so the timeline thing is kind of just like this little side highlight that we're doing. And actually, I want to throw it out there too. Like, we all love a Google everything, and we talk everyone talks a lot about Google. And I feel like Google Drawing sometimes gets people give up on Google Drawing. I don't know.
I think Google gives up on Google Drawing too, though.
I feel like there's just things that are missing.
I think they put it together.
There's cool things you can do in it.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's always kind of on the side. So for those of you that feel bad for Google Drawing or use it or don't use it but are terrified. I know people are just terrified of Google Drawing because it's, I don't know, intimidating maybe. I don't know. But if you go into your Drive, go to Google Drawing, click on Insert, and then click on Diagram. And within that, you'll find timeline templates.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Did
cool.
you know that?
I did not.
So I feel like it's this kind of like missed thing that if you want your kids to create a timeline and they don't want to go to 18,000 other websites, just go to your Google Drive, click on Google Drawing, click on Insert, click on Diagrams, and click Timeline. And they have at least 6 templates there. And actually what's kind of cool is if you click on the template, you can change the color and the font, and it'll automatically change it for you. So if you don't like the template that they chose and you click from green to purple, all the templates turn purple. They do have a limit on their timeline. So I think it's 6. You can fit 6 things within their timeline. And then of course you can just copy and paste it and double it if you need to.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it's a little it's one of those Google Drawing things where it's a little not as easy as it could be, but anyway.
No, but if you have restrictions at school about
using other websites or things lock up, you can use it offline. And the students find it super easy to use once they find it. So that's the whole thing. Go to Diagrams, and then in this magic diagram spot, there's all kinds of templates, and one of them is a timeline. So if you're looking for something quick and your kids are good with Google, they could do that too.
That works.
So,
and I think if you want to get to Google Draw, how do you get there? Go from Drive? Don't you have to go from Drive?
I go to Drive to New.
Yeah, that's it.
And More.
Because I don't believe they show up.
No, they don't.
In the waffle, right?
They do not show up in the waffle. No. Docs, sheets, and slides.
How would you feel if you were Google Draw and your family wouldn't include you in their waffle?
I know, and it's even after forms. Like, it's not even alphabetical.
Yeah.
Drawings should be first, but forms is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a sad
It's just I think Google's like,
you're there.
There are other tools.
You're there. Yeah, you can go
it's
use
it's like somebody at Google,
or you can go use Time Graphics, and it'll all save your Google Drive anyway.
It was like somebody was at Google was like, hey, I really need to draw something, and they're like, here, let me whip up this program for you.
Here, let's make some word art. Oh wait.
All right, let's just toss that in there. Don't put it in the waffle. Just throw it somewhere in the back end of Google Drive.
Yeah. But anyway, while we're in Google Drawing and feeling bad for it, you can timeline. They do like cycles. So there's a cool cycle one in there. So you click on the cycle template and you can do like life cycle of a plant or life, like cycles of like, I think always like engineering, or if you're going to do like the project process, cycling, like, and hierarchies. They have templates for grids and hierarchies and timelines. Just no one seems to know they exist. Or if they do know, no one's sharing the secret. And I just spilled it to the world.
Anyway, what's even sadder about Google Draw?
You can't find it.
You can't type in draw.google.com. Yeah.
We just feel bad for Google Drawing.
I do.
On that note, I feel like we just shared like 100 websites.
If you type in drawings.google.com, it will create a new Google Draw format for you, new file for you.
Okay.
I don't even know what to call them because they
don't.
It'll create a new drawing. And I like to draw.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Note, so now we've covered Visme, Time Graphics, Team Gantt, Google Drawing, and Draw.io. All today on episode 18.
And it's not even a longer episode than usual.
And see, you just started to be an expert in everything.
Yeah.
On that note, thanks for tuning in. And this has been the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast. If you ever have any questions, you can find me on Twitter at SmartInWI. And if you want to get more information on the links or the technology discussed on this episode, you can visit me at smartinwi.com or on Facebook. There's new episodes each week. Thanks for listening. Go educate and innovate.
The ideas and opinions expressed in this podcast and the Smart NWI website are those of the author, Shanna Martin, and not of her employer. Prior to using any of the technologies discussed on this podcast, please consult with your employer regulations. This podcast offers no guarantee that these tools will work for you as described, but we hope they do, and we will talk to you again next week. Thanks for listening.